that was whack. One more time. Ready, set. No, girl, bye. Ready, set. Okay, energy. Yeah, let's go.
Get into it.
All right.
Okay, we're giving sexy.
All right, ASMR vibes.
All right. So today our episode is all going to be about the unsexy side of nursing.
Gotcha. You thought you were coming here to hear about our sex encounters and all the things, but you won't be hearing about any of that today. We're in lingerie and it doesn't make any sense, but we don't make any sense.
Today we're here at Expect Lace on Main Street in Philly, and our outfits are all from Expect Lace.
Yes, this is silk. Get into it. Like, not like your Sheen silk. This is like the real raw organic silk
comfy,
and
smooth,
lace. Smooth.
All
and
of the
this
things.
is a black-owned boutique.
Ooh.
Okay. Lingerie, and there's bra fittings here, as well as there's some fun, playful items in the back here. This is all things sexy and feminine in this space. There's also accessories and jewelry, and I absolutely love that the owner, Shaw, took time to make sure we both felt comfortable, and she listened to us around our boundaries. So, yeah, so the mood and the vibe is set.
Get into it.
But before we really set the tone for today and really get into the vibe, I want to do what I feel like we always should do, which is prayer. And that way we can make it enough.
Okay, can you hold my hand?
Of course. Ready? Everybody take a deep breath in. Everybody, it's two of us. Ready?
There's a person behind the camera.
There's thousands. You too. Everybody take a deep breath in and hold and release. Let's do it one more time, but let out like a little sigh.
Okay.
That feels good. Dear God, we come to you humbly. Thank you for another day of air in our lungs and life in our body. We thank you for the ableness. We thank you for our 4 working extremities. We thank you for the ability to share our gifts, God. We thank you for this space that was provided, God. We thank you for all the lives that we're able to touch from this podcast, God. And we just ask that you continue to fill us with the messages that need to be shared to make others feel seen, heard, and understood. And so it is. In your name, amen.
Amen. Okay, go ahead, girlfriend. You know how to pray.
Girl, it literally, I'm just the vessel. It just moves through me. And so we're here.
I love
so
that for you.
what are we going to talk about today? Because they really thought they were coming to, hear about sexiness and
you look beautiful.
Thank you, girl. So do you.
You definitely look like a housewife that I would want to pay bills for.
Okay, period. Okay, because I have bills that need to be paid.
So today we really wanted to talk about the unsexy side of nursing. First of all, it's Valentine's Day, the day of love, and me and Mo are just very much so the romantic girly girl, feminine.
What are you asking for Valentine's Day for your significant other? What are your plans?
Well, I'm dating.
Okay.
You know that, so I'm dating. But from any Valentine's Day, I just expect for you to pull up and show out. I think that whether I really hate when men be like, I don't celebrate Valentine's Day.
Yeah, no, that's gaslighting.
It's not about whether or not you celebrate Valentine's Day. Oh, I do special stuff all the time. It's not about that. It's about this day is a special day that you just pull up and you shower your loved one with more than what you normally would. And it doesn't have to be more financially. It could just be an extra thought, extra time, extra effort, And I think it's a beautiful day to do that.
Yes.
And I've done that for my friends too.
You do that for
Yeah,
us.
I feel like, for my friends, you can get flowers. And I think that's super important. My mom is a telemetry technician at a hospital. And literally, I coordinated it with her coworkers, and pulled up at her job and serenaded her with a speaker.
I can see
and
you doing
flowers when she got off in the morning at 7:30 in the morning, and serenaded her and sung, "Bad girl, get at me, bad girl."
Okay, you can sing a little bit.
A little bit. I sang in a choir, when I was a little girl. But anyway, the point is that you support the people around you. It's a day of love. It doesn't have to be from a significant other. It could be from your friends, your family, your daughter, your mother. And it's not just for women. We pull up for our men's too. So if you got a man and he talking about something, I don't celebrate Valentine's. Okay, do something, figure it out. I love figure out ability.
I love that. If he wanted to, he would.
Okay.
If she wanted to, she would.
Okay, so we definitely wanted to give you guys some of our, excuse me, she called me twice in a row. Hey, Nan.
Deep breath. Unsexy side of nursing. So Sheena is the caregiver for her grandmother, and it's a lot for you.
A whole lot.
I think one of the unsexy sides of nursing that people don't talk about is the fact that people unsolicitedly, how do you say that? But they just send you pictures of stuff. Do you know how many pictures of like butts, legs, penises, like vaginas, wounds,
bumps.
Like, what is this? And it's like, what other profession? Like, can you just send a lawyer a contract? Like, read this.
It's so
what you
unsexy.
think this is now. So I would say that's like one of the top unsexy things about being a nurse is that once you take on the role nurse, you also take on the role martyr. Mm-hmm. And I think that America really irritated me, and like, when they started calling us healthcare heroes, I never subscribed to that drama, because hero is us taking on the notion that we are superhuman, and we are not. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's one of the unsexiest things about being a nurse. That's one of the most unattractive things. Like, and a lot of young nurses don't realize this when they're getting into the field. You know, you become everybody's nurse. Yep. You're not supposed to have feelings. It's, wow, you're so strong. And they don't think about the toll that it actually takes on you that is not a superhuman, that didn't get bit by a spider and then actually turn into Spider-Man. And we can't scale walls. We're human. We still need the same rest, sunlight, water, all of the things that everyone else needs. So I would say that that's top tier for unsexy side of nursing. Like, your grandmother just called you. Yeah. And you're her caregiver, one of her caregivers, but it's like,
everything stops.
Everything has to stop.
As soon as she calls, hello, you all right? Okay,
and I've been out with you where it monopolizes our entire day. Yeah. So how, as, you know, now you have the role of nurse, mother, and caregiver for your grandmother. So you're still clocking in and working telemetry float pool, which is, in my opinion, one of the hardest fields to work in, because for the nurses out there that are tele, I was an ICU nurse for 7 years bedside, and everyone thought I was like so badass and it was hard. But when I would go to a tele unit, I would be ready to crash the fuck out, because it's like you're running after, I worked in Georgia, and I would be running after 5 to 8 patients, you know? Or 4 to 8 patients when at the time, and they would mix some with tele, some with med surge, and it's just really overwhelming because a lot of your patients actually belong in step down or in ICU. Right.
That's the hardest part, is that ICU, you have a lot of control in terms of, I love it. My patients are right here. They don't get up. They don't move. You know, for the most part, everything around your patient, you control if they eat. You control what they eat. You control,
I love that.
You control if they're breathing. You control literally everything, whereas med-surg tele, you're dealing with 4 to 8 patients who can get up, can leave, can eat what they want,
fall,
can order food, can fall, are confused.
Can bring their girlfriend in.
And will.
Will.
They are all patients who want the autonomy and want the independence of getting up and using the bathroom, but it requires you, because you can't let them use the bathroom by themselves because they are they have a disability or they can't walk that well. So it's like all of these people calling you all at once, and it can be kind of hectic. The ICU, when I've been floated to the ICU, especially as a pool nurse, I've been floated to the ER, and
can I ask, how does that work? Like, do you just have to be ACLS certified in order to float as? Or was your specialty prior ICU?
So I'm med-surg tele. Whenever I float to the ER or to the ICU, they basically give me an assignment that is supposed to be within my practice.
Oh, that's gaslighting.
It's very much so gaslighting.
That's so dangerous.
They basically are giving me a patient that's supposed to be on a med-surg tele floor or is about to go to a med-surg tele floor, but they don't have a bed yet.
Gotcha.
Supposedly. But a lot of times, even you know that, even when a patient comes from the ICU to med-surg for the first day, they're at the highest risk, because they're all of a sudden giving a different type of care all of a sudden. Gotcha. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it is what it is, but I feel like that's one of the reasons why I often tell nurses, like, you don't know what you're talking about sometimes unless you've floated. Because a lot of nurses, they'll talk about, as a med-surg tele nurse, they'll talk about ER nurses, they'll talk about ICU nurses. The ICU nurses will talk about med-surg tele, we'll talk about ER, we'll talk about, you can't talk because you've never been there. Whereas I have actually been in those situations, and I can tell people, yeah, the ER nurse didn't clean up this patient before they came to the floor, because they're taught to focus on airway, breathing, circulation.
That's it.
They are taught to focus on the
And
emergencies, the safety, things that have to be done before they go upstairs. Not, yeah, they didn't cover your blood sugar of 500, because that's not what they do.
I would be ready to crash
They
out
would
of
cover it if they had to, but they don't. Their focus is getting the person stable enough to go upstairs to you.
But like ER nurses, really, you want to send me up with, like, don't call me and tell me it's been years and I still remember an ER nurse calling me like, hey, his hemoglobin is 4.6 and he has a 22 gauge in the right thumb.
Yeah.
Girl, fuck you.
Respectfully. But I do think that being a pool nurse, you do have a unique perspective for the situations that are like crazy hectic. The ER is a jungle, period. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I say all that, but I got floated to the ER once, twice in my career. And I went to the manager and I said, never send me the fuck back here.
It's a jungle.
I love control.
Yeah.
I don't always have a lot of control in my life. And I am really like the most free-spirited type A that you'll ever meet. Would you agree?
I would agree with that.
And the ICU really did something for me. I don't think it helped that that neurosis in me, but I worked in neuro ICU for many years. And what I did love about it was everything that you're saying. It was, okay, blood is high, and as an ICU nurse, you have a lot of autonomy, and you tell your doctors what you want to do. And here I am, little 5'1", 26-year-old, talking to a neurosurgeon. Hey, write me 2 units of blood. Hey, I need FFP. Hey, I need levo. Add epi. I need this. You get what I mean? Add the amio, and I could literally. Something's too high, something's too low, I can tweak up and down as much as I need it. So it really does a lot for you.
Yeah.
So let's go back to our unsexy thing.
Wait, let me say, one thing I will say about Mr. Shelley, the part that I love that I didn't realize that I loved, is I love de-escalation. I think people don't teach that enough in terms of like preceptors don't teach younger nurses that de-escalation will change your entire day. I am the nurse that is able to get the schizophrenic, bipolar patient to be calm for the rest of the day. I'm the nurse that's able to calm down the sickle cell patient who's pissed off from the previous nurse that didn't give her meds on time. I'm that nurse that's able to get Miss Betty to stay in bed, and she's off the 1-to-1 now because we done talked about it. And I think that, don't get me wrong, in the moment it's super annoying, but I take pride in knowing that someone's day was made better because of me. You know what I mean? And I like the communication and direction of it.
I actually have a really funny story about that. Can I share it with you?
Are you going to give it in our ASMR?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one time I was working in a locked male psych.
It sounds so sexy.
No, because
it's a locked male
psych unit with all aggressive men.
Okay. So it was giving.
It wasn't giving. And there was mice running around this institution. It was really dirty. And there were no guards.
Okay. So just you and all these men locked in a unit.
Ugh, that sounds dangerous. I don't like that. That sounds dangerous. Trigger warning. So I had this one patient, let's call him Butter.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Butter was admitted at 4 o'clock in the morning, and Butter was 310 pounds and 6'4". 6 foot.
He ate a lot of butter.
6 foot. He did. Okay. He had tattoos on his face when he was admitted. And they said, please go do Butter's search in the room by yourself. And I said, fuck you, respectfully. CC, why I probably got fired from this job and wonder so much. So anyway, I wait for my male counterparts to come and search Butter because no way. So I finally search Butter and he's like, look, I'm tired. It's been a long day. I don't want to be here. And I said, okay, well, you have to be here tonight, and let's talk about it in the morning. Because I think that for patients who are locked in a psych facility, if you give them hope that you could potentially leave soon, that's inspiring to him. But if you tell them you're going to be here as long as you need to be here, then they're going to crash out.
Then he might hit you.
So the next morning I come in and I say, Butter, good morning, how are you? And he says, bitch, fuck you. And I said, Butter, is there anything I can do to make your day better? And he says, yeah, 3 turkey sandwiches, a Xanax, and 4 apple juices. So I returned with 3 turkey sandwiches, a Xanax, not a Xanax, but
the equivalent
of a Xanax, and 4 apple juices. I also had a bag of Lay's chips for him. He devoured all of it. And now Butter was my best friend.
Okay.
So as I'm going off on my shift, he is feeling a little irritated. And I'm like, would you like any PRNs?
Okay.
So I give him his PRNs. And mind you, Butter is 308 pounds. Okay. And the doctor prescribed 25 milligrams of Benadryl for Butter to relax.
Okay, the dose that I would give my child.
Yes, the dose that I would give my child. And so I didn't even want to present this to Butter because he would say, I'm going to fuck you up.
Okay.
And likely would. So I grab the Benadryl and also Thorazine and a few other things to mix, and I present that to him. And they quickly wear off before my shift is ending, and he says, I'm going to fuck shit up. And I said, okay, well, it's 6:32, and I don't really like these people anyway. So if you're going to fuck shit up, can you wait till 7:35? Because I have a child at home that I would really like to get to, and if you fuck shit up, then I won't be able to get to my child.
I can guess what Butter said.
Butter said, yes, okay. So that night, I clocked out. That morning I clocked out at 7:33 in the
Butter
morning.
fucked shit
I
up.
returned home and I had a really restful sleep, and all I could think about was Butter. Is he okay? Is he getting the medication that he needs? I know he's a violent criminal and 308 pounds with tattoos on his face, but he's a person. Is he getting his turkey sandwiches? Is he getting his Thorazine? Does he have a warm blanket? And I thought, you know what? I'm going to pack a warm blanket in my bag for Butter. Yeah, I used to do stuff like that. So I packed the warm blanket and I head into work. I clock in and I come in and Butter has 3 people at his bedside and he's highly sedated. And I say, oh, wow. And then I go to the break room and there's applesauce, chips, cookies everywhere, and everything is fucked up. And I said, Butter, what happened? He said, I waited until 7:42. I said, good job, Butter. Good job. Well done. Thank you. Okay. So, but that was kind of my relationship with my psych patients in the sense that I humanize them. I only worked in inpatient psych for a month.
Okay.
And it paid really good. And I get why it pays really good because I don't blame the patients. I actually really loved my patients because most of them were voluntary. And I felt like there was a lot of men on the street that belonged in there with them. And there was a lot of women in there that belonged in there with them. And my specialty was actually at the time aggressive men. And they listened to me because I respected them. You know, I didn't play on my sexuality or my cuteness at all. I'd be like, hey, no, knock it off. I talked to them kind of like my 3-year-old. And it really worked well for me, but I would treat them like humans. If they asked for something, they would get it from me because they asked for it. And normally it was something really reasonable, such as, I want a Band-Aid, instead of being like, you don't really have a boo-boo. Okay, here's a Band-Aid for your boo-boo.
Right.
I don't give a fuck. Band-Aids cost the hospital 13 cents, maybe, maximum, you know? So it was really about humanizing and listening to my patients, but it was extremely unsexy, mainly because of the conditions they had these patients in. And this facility is right around the corner from here, and they should be ashamed of themselves for being open because patients would be hungry. You know, psych medicines make you extremely hungry. And they would have these big men with one plate of food for the whole 12 hours.
And you wonder why they mad.
And you wonder why they're mad. Or then you'd have people in there that came in naked because, like, when you're in a psychiatric crisis, you often stripped down. And so they'd have them there without anything. So I would always keep things like sweatpants, wigs. I know it sounds like, but I would keep things there with me that I knew that they would essentially need.
Right.
And a nurse role in psych is really to just give medication for the most part and do treatment plans and assessments. But there were just times that a turkey sandwich and 4 apple juices will stop you from messing up the entire situation. So it was unsexy, it was scary, it was locked, but then somebody grabbed my ponytail.
And then it was over.
I just casually placed my badge down.
That's it.
And it was crazy because let's call him Jorge. Let's call him Jorge. Jorge was like 5'3".
Ooh.
And so I dealt with big, violent, or aggressive men and never. But Jorge was small, creep. Like, just, he was a fucking creep. That's the best way to describe it. He would just like look at me and say stuff, and I'd be like, knock it off. And one day I was walking down the hallway, and he grabbed my ponytail, and I went to, and I was like, nope, tap out. This ain't it. So yeah, that's my,
you gotta put your
that's
badge
my
on the
last unsexy, like my last situation with unsexy work.
Okay, so I used to, I'm pool, so I go to psych too. So this one time I'm at psych, and I'm working with a lot of male nurses like psych.
Yeah, they do well.
Yeah,
a lot of them power trip there though too.
I mean, I ain't gonna go there, but that happens when you put masculinity in certain situations. But
that energy is needed.
Yeah, sometimes it makes it worse too. Sometimes it escalates things.
It does.
But anyway, so I'm working with all male nurses, and there's this young lady there, and I forget the term for it, but they were saying that she was sexually occupied.
It's called sexually preoccupied.
Sexually preoccupied. And she needed an EKG. So the nurse says, he goes, hey, this patient is sexually preoccupied. Can you go in there and do the EKG for me? So I'm expecting to see just a very unkept woman, right? I go in, and why is she fine as hell? So I'm just like, what are you doing? Sexually preoccupied, ma'am. Okay. So I go in the room, and I go to do the EKG on her, and I say, hey, can you just lift your shirt up a little bit? She goes, sure, and takes everything off.
Like
right?
this?
And she's now butt, booty, ass naked in the room with me, right? So
this is getting juicy.
When you do an EKG, you have to you have to expose the person's chest. Nothing else, though. There's no reason for her to be naked. But she takes everything off. And I'm thinking, because she's sexually preoccupied, being that I'm a female, everything would work out, right? I was mistaken. So she's sitting there naked, and I'm putting the stuff on her chest, and she's just like moving and doing all these actions, right? And
I might have lost my job.
So I'm just sitting, and she's attractive, right? So I'm just like, okay. Next thing you know, I look to the left to get something. I turn back. She smacks the shit out of my ass. She smacked my ass so hard that my ass smacked her back. You hear me? And then she says to me, ooh, bitch, your ass fat as shit. And I said,
I'm sorry. Are we breaking? Yeah.
no, we're not breaking. This is what happened.
No, this is real.
I swear. She smacked me and said, damn, bitch, your ass fat as shit. So I said,
wait,
I said, you can't touch me like that. You gotta keep your hands to yourself. She's like, I'm sorry, bitch. That joint just was calling me. We in Philly, y'all. So I said, all right. Your EKG is in normal sinus rhythm. I'm gonna head out. So I go give him the EKG, and he's looking at me like, you all right? Because now my face is red. And he was like, what happened? And I said, she smacked my ass. And he said, damn, that's crazy. And that was the rest of it. Like, I don't think people know that in nursing, we get assaulted all the time.
Like, nonstop.
And it really means absolutely nothing. Like, no one cares. No one gets arrested. No one gets in trouble. Like, I remember this one time I was pregnant, and I was working at Hahnemann. God rest Hahnemann's soul. That was my favorite hospital, by the way, in Philly. It shut down. And, this patient was a psych patient. They put him on 4-point restraints, which means that he's locked to the bed.
Leather?
No, it was like the Velcro ones. Okay. But 4-point restraints, when you have the ones that are the security ones, they lock.
Yeah, and you have to do an assessment every 15 minutes.
Yeah, so he's locked to the bed. Somehow he gets out of them. He broke the bed by rocking back and forth until he broke them off. He gets out, and then he takes the fire hydrant, the fire extinguisher, and sprayed the entire unit.
Oh,
so his little ass, we can't find him. so everybody looking for him, but they can't find his little ass. And the whole floor is smoky. The fire department comes. We still can't find him. They finally find the patient. Of course, it wasn't me because I was pregnant. And they put him in the bed. He bit the nurse, took a chunk out of the nurse's thigh. The nurse tried to press charges. He went to court and everything. They didn't stick. Unfortunately, patients are always seen as under some type of something that can make them act a certain way, whether it's drugs, whether it's mental health. They always can plead that they're incompetent at the time. So it just doesn't.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
So I think we should talk about that too.
Yeah.
Like the unsexy part of it for us and the risk that it poses. And
And that's you got to keep it a buck. Like, I've been kicked in the stomach while I was pregnant. I've been body slammed. I've been smacked. I've been punched. Only thing that hasn't ever worked out is being bit. Cause listen, when it comes to them older people that try to bite you, I let them know this gonna be the last day that you remain with your teeth.
Most of the times that mine have all been body fluids. I've been spit on. When I was 24, I got spit in the eye
Oof.
by a patient with active
Intentionally,
and
wow.
he had active AIDS, and he did it on purpose. So I had to go through testing. I had to do antivirals at 24 years old as a brand new baby nurse.
Yeah.
My life was like feared for, you know. He intentionally spit in my eye, like when I was leaning over him and did an assessment.
Right.
That's when I was my Grady days, you know.
Yeah.
So it's been things like that. I've never had anybody like physically hit me.
Oh, yeah.
I've had patients say like funny things that like hurt my feelings. Like this one guy called my hands dookie tips. And I just was like, you gotta just like.
Why did he do?
Because I was opening his meds and he was like, don't touch my pills with your dookie tips. And I was like, but I have to say, like, I worked in 7 different states, right? Over 7 years as a travel nurse. Wow, 7. And I have to say that Philadelphia, like, you will not get me as a bedside nurse. Like, I love y'all, I respect y'all, and I see it and I get it, but get someone else to do it. I want to talk a little bit about like being in a relationship as a nurse and also like having a family as a nurse and like some of the unsexy parts of that.
Okay. I think the biggest thing that we don't talk about is nurses in dating. That's number one. Nurses who already have a man that aren't necessarily being treated how they want to be treated. And 3 is how nurses maneuver our lifestyle with kids. Because I think that what we don't talk about is that most nurses work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So most daycares are open from 8 a.m., maybe 7 a.m. until 5 p.m.
Or 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
So when you think about how nurses find childcare, there's no daycare. Most of them are not open at 5 a.m. Most of them are not open at 8 p.m. when we would be coming to pick the kids up. That's for day shift. For night shift, you're just asked out. That's just what it is. You have to either have family
really
close by or your partner. And let's not even, it's also hard on your kids. Like I have a Virgo who loves routine. So even for someone like me who has help, who has that support, it's still a lot for him to go back and forth every single time I work. It's like he's doing a shift with me, you know? So I think that that's something that we don't really talk about as nurses is like, how do you juggle everything? How do you juggle? I remember my son, when I would wear navy blue, he would just fall out on the floor because he just knew navy blue meant that mommy was going to work. I'm not going to get no breast milk. And from the form that he wanted it in, he wasn't going to get the things that he normally would get. He's not going to get tucked in, you know? And we don't really talk about that. We missed the first steps. We missed the baseball games, the basketball games, football.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very independent, free thinker, and I really was like, fuck this. Like, I said hashtag no to it.
Yeah.
So I knew I didn't want to experience pregnancy, one, in America. Mm-hmm. And I planned my entire nursing career around having a child. Like, I knew that I wanted to be a mother in my 30s, so I saved money, like, during travel nursing, like, for my kid, like, for this time. And I know that everybody doesn't have the luxury to that, but for those young women out there that are listening, like, I would love them to consider that, because when you're travel nursing or you're in a field of nursing and you don't have any kids and you're making a couple $1,000s a week or biweekly and your expenses are low and your bills are low, you don't think about the fact that you don't get maternity leave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, first of all, let's dive into that because people don't know that nurses, and this is just from the hospitals that I know and the hospitals that Mo knows. If there are hospitals out there that do this, great. But from what I know, hospitals do not provide maternity leave, meaning paid maternity leave. What happens is you go out of work. If you still have PTO or sick time left, then you use that first. And let's be clear, most of us don't, because you have 10 months of pregnancy. During those 10 months, you probably call out from being sick or tired. Okay, so let's just say you don't have any time left. Once you go out for leave, the hospital guarantees you, I think, 16 weeks of being out and still keeping your job.
But
Sometimes
you're not getting
it's
paid.
6 months, but you're not getting paid at all. And you have to apply for a short-term disability from the government. And usually that takes weeks to kick in after you apply. So when that happens, you're basically out of money until it kicks in, unless you do have the PTO or sick time. You should not have to use sick time for delivering a baby. And then a lot of us go back to work early because we used most of our time, and by the time short-term disability kicked in, we done got broke during the process. So now you have nurses who aren't fully healed, who haven't really fully embraced motherhood the way that they want
experiencing
to, that are back
postpartum.
on the floor. I went back to work when my son was 6 weeks old.
That's so hard. How did
It's
you
terrible.
do that?
The morning I went to the doctor's that morning, she looked at me, she said, "You're not quite ready. Your stitches are not all the way healed." This is when I first started really understanding breastfeeding. I was struggling. She said, "But I'm going to write you as cleared. Don't go back till next week." My ass was there 7P.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I've always struggled with my mental health since I was like 15 years old. Like I've struggled with seasonal depression, with actual depression, like just ongoing depression. And I choose not to be medicated for it because of my many reasons. And I don't look down on anybody who chooses medication, but it just never has been for me. I really like to manage it with my diet, my overall well-being, and my lifestyle. And for me, I knew that I was going to experience some form of postpartum depression because of the dips, ups and downs. So I had a year and a half off with my child and like away from doing any kind of nursing work. I knew that it was going to be a fallback plan for me. But I didn't know how aggressive it would be and how horrific it would be when I came back to the bedside.
Right.
So I took 5 years away from bedside nursing and focused on being an entrepreneur, developing myself as an entrepreneur, and also creating a life that's more sustainable.
Right.
Because school is from 8 to 2 p.m., right? And I knew that somebody's going to have to pick my kid up from school when I have them. Like I was very intentional when I went into planning motherhood. And I really am saying all this for the nurses out there who are family planning because it's like, I'm a nurse, I got a good job, but they don't think about the dynamics that go into it. And, even if you are in a 2-parent household, you need to see the other parent at some point, or else it becomes like, I work nights, you work days, we don't see each other, So I took this time off mainly because of my mental health, and it came full circle for me when I went back to working bedside. So I was working in psych, and this woman came in. She was admitted. She was a 201, which means that she was voluntary. DHS had taken her children. She had a newborn baby that was 3 months old, which I still consider a newborn, and we had to dump her breast milk out in the toilet together. And I had to go in the bathroom and cry. Because imagine your child being taken from you and then having to, dispose of your gold. And they just literally didn't have the capability to store it for her, and it wouldn't go to her child. And my choices, at that point, all made sense to me because I would have been her.
Yeah.
She literally checked out and, neglected her kids, essentially, and someone called DHS. And the depression you feel for some women, I lost my spark for almost 2 years, where I just didn't feel alive. I didn't feel well. I didn't feel like myself. So I did the bare minimum, which was to be an excellent mother. I just poured the love that I had into my child because I really didn't have it for myself. So to have to go into work and care for someone else, how did you do that?
Well, I think that I did it from a place of not being mentally there. And remember also, my son didn't go to daycare. At the time I was married, my son didn't go to daycare until he was almost one. So basically, I would work all night, come home to a baby in the morning, running home because my ex worked a 9 to 5, so I had to get home before he had to leave out. And then I would be there, open there with the baby all day, And he not ready to go to sleep. He mommy's home.
No, he's mommy's home,
and he just slept all night. So he's excited and he wants to play and he wants to. And now my only way to get him to nap is to nurse. So now I got one titty that's big as shit, and the other titty is empty.
I used to
I'm laying here please just give me 2 hours. I'm exhausted. Exhausted. The reason why I put him in daycare was because I almost put nasal drops in someone's eye And I said, yeah, it's time for homeboy to go to school. I need some sleep. I'm gonna fuck around and do something I'm not supposed to do. So, but I also, that's, of course, that's like a very simple mistake, but it didn't happen. But the point is that you have to know when it's too much. You have to know when, like, okay, you haven't slept in a year. It's time for you to sit down. You need to take care of yourself so you can take care of other people. And I really just want to note that, I don't know about your experience, but nursing is a very woman-led field. On the average night when you're at work, you are lucky to even have one male nurse. Most of the nurses will be female. But somehow, most of the DONs, which are directors of nursing, are always male.
Patriarchy.
Makes zero sense. And a lot of times
it does. It's called patriarchy.
Right. And a lot of times it is that one male nurse that gets there. So it's just like, that part is blasphemy to me, that we can have a woman-led field with women as the front of it, and we are the ones that are making the calls and doing the work, but then the DON above us who makes all the decisions, and the owners of the hospitals, the corporations and everything like that are all male. So it's like there's no reason at all for there to not be paid maternity leave and sick time and all these things that in abundance, mental health at minimum. No, I don't want to breathe it out. I want a DON that's a female that, and then when you get the when you get the DONs that are females, they don't pull up.
No, they don't.
They don't pull up. They don't act like they're for us, or they
okay, let me explain though. You've never really worked in California. California is like, you would love it. Like,
yeah,
it's
but
a
that's
little bit
only Cali. The whole country is not like that.
No, it's not. And I heard Seattle, but let us know in the comments. But my experience in California was like that. But I knew when I was a nurse, a baby nurse from 22 to 29, I said, ain't no fucking way I'm gonna do this with kids. There's no way. Okay. So when I ended up doing it with kids, I said, oh my God, I fucked. What the fuck? You know what I mean? And I pivoted very quickly. And I wanna let any nurse out there who recently gotten fired, like, that may be your blessing as well. Because there's so many different ways to pivot and work in nursing. It's so unsexy. It's so many different things to do. And it's really about finding your lane. And the overnight, I was always a night shift nurse because my attitude just could not with days. I'm punk rock. Like, I really need to be in my own space. Yeah. And day shift was like, somebody threw away my water bottle one time because it was at the nursing station, at the nursing station, and I almost crashed out. Like, why did you throw away
a lot more people, a lot more
my
managers.
Starbucks cup? It's just so many different things. And you're asking me about a whiteboard, and I'm literally like suctioning a copious secretion trach. I'm also titrating Levophed, epinephrine, and like propofol, fentanyl, Versed. I'm doing the thing, and like I'm a rock star at doing the thing. I just felt like, leave me the fuck alone and let me rock out.
Night shift is definitely leave me the fuck alone.
So night shift, I would have my little earbuds in. And I would be like, it's a beautiful, I like to call like a neuro ICU patient like a symphony, because you're titrating this, you're pulling this, you're doing that. And it really feels,
like a song in your head.
Feels like you're in your wave. Yeah. And some really morbid nurses would say I'm watering my vegetables, which is, no. I know, it's horrific. But it would be.
I get it.
You get
it. Well, let's be clear. Nursing humor is our own humor.
Dark. It's
and
dark.
if you're not in nursing, you can't really give too much of a 2 cents because you don't get it.
That was like what ended up. So I never told you like how I left. Okay, so.
Oh wait, you did, because we did the podcast with Ellen and you told us there. But go ahead, tell us again.
Okay, so how I ended up leaving was I was making like 120 off my business a year, so I was doing really well. So nurses, I encourage you to start a business, whatever it is. Make cups, make mugs, do something for nurses if you can. Nurses have money. They have reliable source of income. They are committed to things, and they are addictive as well. Yeah. So they're great people to sell things to. Yeah. So at the time, I had retreats. I was doing consulting. And I had merchandise. I was doing events, and I was doing a lot of Instagram collabs and things like that. So I was essentially an influencer, a motivational speaker, with all the things I still am. Okay. And so I left. My career was taking over. Like, it was too much. So I was in a travel assignment, and I encourage nurses out there that can do travel assignments to do them, young ones especially, or empty nesters to do them and take breaks, because I would take breaks and take time off and use that money to invest in myself and like my business and save. And I save and invest. So, I was in a space where, okay, I own property. Like, I had my own space. I had a successful business, and it just wasn't necessary anymore. I had a job at USC Keck, which I loved. Like, I was float pool ICU, working in any aspect of ICU, and it was a teaching hospital. Love teaching hospitals. Once I got over the fear of communicating with physicians, it was smooth. So I was working at Keck. My contract was ending. They were like, do you want to renew? And I was like, I just can't. Like, I'm literally going to Africa next week. Like, I can't. You know what I mean? And then my other job was at Kaiser in West LA. And Kaiser is a challenging system, and I actually did have a black DON, like a black nurse manager, not DON, direct nurse manager. And I had a patient come in, and the first thing that they said was, he's a frequent flyer. And I just don't like that terminology because he's still a human. So he was a patient that had a GSW gunshot wound years ago, ended up paralyzed, you know, the whole story, stomach issues, multiple stage wounds, all of the things. And he had a wound to the bone, and it needed to be debrided. So he was supposed to really come in, be seen by step down, because I was on step down that night, and have the debridement done in surgery in OR a couple days later. He's brought in. The physician comes in and is like, I'm going to do the debridement tonight because I need to bill for it because I'm going on vacation. And I was like, it needs to be done in OR. Like, it's deep. Have you seen it? So I'm like showing her pictures of it. And she's like, no, I need to do it tonight because I'm leaving and I'm not going to be able to see the patient and I have to bill for it. So I'm like, have you seen it? And so she's like, I haven't, but I'm sure we can do it tonight. And I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that. You know, like, it's 3:00 in the morning. Why are we debriding a wound at bedside? Like, this just seemed off. And it sounded really painful for him. So she comes in and she goes, move your legs at the assessment. Like, hey, how are you? Da, 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 da. Move your legs. And he's quadriplegic. He can't move his legs. So I've done things like that. Don't get me wrong. Like, we've all done things like that where we're just rushing, but it just was super insensitive. And he was a black man. And, you know, his injury was due to gang violence years ago, all of the things. But I just felt like he was completely stereotyped, as his life and his body was not valuable. So she looks at it and is like, oh, yeah, I could do this at bedside. So he has loving family members that care about him. And they're like, hey, no, we don't want to do this tonight. Like, they said the plan was for this to be done in surgery. And so she's just like, well, we're doing it tonight. Like, you know, da-da-da-da-da. And so she stepped out. And I was like, you know, you can refuse. And I encourage you to refuse. So she's like, I need this, and that. Grab that for me. And I'm like, bitch, I'm not your fucking assistant. Like, I'm not second assist. So I'm like, I need 4 of morphine. And so she was like, excuse me? I said, I need 4 of morphine in order to do this procedure with him. I need at minimum 4 milligrams of morphine. He needs to be premedicated.
Shit, 2 of Dilaudid, you got me chopped.
Yeah, like, well, they don't give more Dilaudid to frequent flyers. You see how that works? It's so I was like, no, but this was for her to even look at it. She hadn't even looked at the wound. So I'm like, before you even go turning and poking him, he need 4 of morphine. So she's like at the desk, and I make her grab her own supplies because, girl, fuck you. And so, and it's 3:00 in the morning. Right. Why are we doing this at 3:00 in the morning? So we go in with the stuff, and I'm waiting at the door because she's like, all right, we're going to turn him and I'm going to assess the wound. And, you know, they measure it and all of the things. And so I'm like, and I've already seen it because I've admitted him. So she's like, all right, come on. I'm ready to, like, assess him and, you know, start to, like, set up. And I have everything. So essentially she was going to assess him. And then if she could, she was going to do the debridement at bedside. And so I was like, I'm not coming in the room until you write the order for the 4 of morphine. And so she was like, excuse me? And I was like, I'm not moving this patient again at 3:00 in the morning until he's premedicated. So she wrote me up, and the next morning I quit. And for me, it was just more so of, this is how, 1, I don't fucking need to be here. You get what I mean? 2, I will not take part in this, because this is basically saying that your body doesn't matter, that your pain doesn't matter, because your choices don't matter, your family doesn't matter. So it just was like, I'm good, you know? Mm-hmm. And then I went on to frolic in multiple countries, live in the jungle, do different things. And I'm really glad that I did that, because I don't think I think Western healthcare is necessary and is needed.
Yeah.
But I think that the things that nurses feel they have to go through
for sure.
in order to have a job is ridiculous.
No,
Like,
for sure,
we are
for sure.
some of the most educated, mostly women and men in the world, and we deal with bullshit.
Yeah.
And I just was like, no, So I just encourage nurses out there to really think outside the box and think of exit plans and think of ways to make their career more sustainable over time.
And I think that's really important, especially because, like, I'm a pool nurse. So because of that, I see how different floors are treated. I see which floors get the resources, which floor gets more staff, which floor gets more supplies. Gets cleaned better, more decorations.
Cardiac.
Like, there's different things. And I think that when you're a young nurse, or even just a nurse that's stuck in her ways, sometimes you can get really caught up with only working on one floor and you don't know how other floors work. So you think this is nursing when, baby, it's 50 million ways to skin a cat, okay? You could work in nursing and work in multiple different areas. And I agree with Mo. There's only one job that I really had that gave me as much energy as they did, and that was after I went viral. After I went viral, I think that my institution was more upset that they weren't a part of the viralness, So long story short, they were questioning people around me. They were asking people, they were stalking my page and looking at mind you, I went viral at home with no badge on in my own home.
They be worrying about you.
But nobody, the hospital wasn't mentioned, nobody was whatever, but they still felt some type of way. I think they wanted to be mentioned. They wanted it to be like because of us, Nonetheless, they were looking at my page and like trying to find people that from the hospital and questioning them and targeting me and doing all this old weird stuff, whatever. A part of that came a lot of jealousy, a lot of nonsense, and I also am just a very honest person, so that comes with it too. Is like a lot of nurses, if you work all night and things weren't set up right, when the boss comes in the morning, they say, "How was your night?" You say, "Good." Why are you lying? Fuck is you lying for?
Yeah.
If you knew that the night was some bullshit because you didn't have staff or you didn't have this, you didn't have that, tell them. How are they supposed to make a change
because
if you don't say anything?
But people are afraid
Of course.
They
that's my
fire
point.
them over that.
No, that's my point. So that's why for me, it wasn't necessarily a safe place for me because I am honest.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. If you say something that don't make sense, I'm going to make it real clear that don't make sense. And I can understand why this may not be the safest place for me to work, but I also feel like that's not a me problem.
It's not.
You know what I mean?
So sometimes you have to remove yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So they bullied me, whatever. Long story short, a patient pulled my arm, but she fell on the floor as we were getting her up off the floor. She yanked my arm down. I sprained my trapezius. The hospital themselves took me out of work. They told me, you can't come back to work until you can lift 50 pounds. They took me out, their occupational medicine. They made me do physical therapy, all these things. But during that time, they were paying for my medical, but denying me the money. How? How can you admit to injury, but then not pay the person for the injury?
It's literally
it's bullying.
Yeah, it's bullying.
It's their way of
and
trying
harassment.
to get you out. Exactly. So nonetheless, I sued them. I got my money, period.
So what?
But after that, when I came back to work, the week that I came back, I quit because y'all had me fucked up.
Yeah.
I was out of work for 10 weeks without pay, and they were telling me I could not come back. So just things like that you have to deal with, but also leaving that job was my biggest blessing.
Of course.
That was the job that I had when I went viral, and it was a blessing to me in the sense of I shared my experience with so many. But after that, I started making double as a travel nurse and just seeing different things. And it was a blessing because the next job that I went to, it taught me that everything that they gaslighted me into being not possible, that hospital had. Because when you talk to your managers and you tell them about something that's wrong, oh, maybe you're not fit for this unit, or maybe you can't handle this. No. When I'm telling you something that I need or telling you something that's wrong, don't gaslight the nurses into thinking that it's them. No. It's what y'all got going on here, and you're asking for feedback, but you don't really want it. So when I went to this new hospital, they had all the things, and they were all very receptive to critique and receptive to feedback, wanted to hear about ways to make the nursing experience better. My manager was on point. She used to buy us Ritas on a Sunday.
I love
night
a Ritas.
shift. She would
I
bring
love
it
a mango
in and
cherry.
freeze it for us, even if she wasn't there. She listened. She had honest feedback for us as well, and she would get on the floor. If a call bell went off, she might not have actually flipped the patient, but she would go in to see what was going on. And I never forget, a patient threatened me, and she went in the room to see about it and told him, yeah, not too much. So I think that that's the key too, is that don't get caught up in situations that are not for you. Sometimes things overstay their welcome, and and it's time for you to move, but you won't. So God will put things in place to move you because you're not moving fast enough. And I'm so grateful that he did.
So I love all the things. I love the woo woo, and I love Jesus. All right.
Yeah.
So my woo woo girlie, my tarot reader, her name is your favorite goddess. Okay, she told me, do you either want to leave with some grace, or do you want to be drug out by your edges?
Okay.
And I need everybody to hear that. So real quick, can we just give the girls and guys out there that want families, that want to be mothers and fathers, because we're all about solutions. Some solutions to the unsexy side of nursing and parenting, as far as the burnout, the tiredness, all of the things. So I'm a drop mine. You don't have to do something you don't enjoy for money. You just don't. Like, it's a real thing. Like, there is something out there for everybody, right? Like, there is a genre for everybody.
That's why you gotta keep changing jobs too.
Yeah.
Stop getting stuck. Like, move around.
Somebody recently said, like, all you do is bounce around, and I said, and you're mad because you're and you're mad because you're stuck at the same job, and you should bounce around too.
Yeah.
And she said, I am mad. I hate my job. Yeah, girl.
Yeah, move.
So don't be afraid to pivot. Don't be afraid to change your mind, and you don't have to do something that you hate.
Yeah.
Number 2 is sometimes abundance doesn't always look like a lot of money in your paycheck. I'm going to say that again. Sometimes abundance doesn't always look like a lot of money in your paycheck. Sometimes it looks like, I love this job. I work at this office. I'm able to pick my child up from school. I'm able to do my art on the weekends. I'm able to hula hoop or go to yoga practice and have interest in life. And God has a way of making it enough.
Yeah.
You see how I did that?
I see you.
Yeah. So God has a way of making it enough. And then finally is get a side hustle. I'm going to give y'all one more. Plan for your families and kids, because these institutions, they don't give a flying fuck about you or your kids. They don't care about you.
Don't.
You will literally take care of other people's children, right? Grown children who never cared for themselves in their lives. And then if you need to be out for a week because your child has an ear infection, a flu, whatever, they will fire you.
Yeah.
So I think that you need to be less attached and have another plan, because these jobs don't care about you. You know, they really don't. Nobody in my family will get me a job, and I understand, like, because I don't fucking care. Like, I'll leave. I'm the worst employee ever. I have to be an entrepreneur, because I understand. I'm a great employee when I like somewhere and I feel good about it and I feel like they value me, but you sign at most institutions an at-will employment, but yet you have to give them 2 weeks, 30-day notice, and they give you no notice.
At all.
So I move like that.
Yeah.
I move like that.
Yeah.
My last job that I quit, they said to me, you know, we didn't really want to lose you. I said, oh, wow, really? You should have
tell.
You should have treated me better. And
Yeah.
I think you need to hold your value,
Yeah.
plan for children, because there is going to be a time in your life where the most important thing to you can't be bought.
Yeah.
And that's where I am in my life right now. So what would you say?
So I would say, first is figure out what it is that you need from your job, from your lifestyle, from your experience as a whole, and figure out what that looks like for you. Because a lot of us are just getting a job because it's our dream job on a special unit or something like that, which no shade to that too. Get there, do your 2 years, but if you got to roll, you got to roll. So I think that's another thing, is just figuring out what is the type of experience that you want to have at work. Do you want to be off on weekends? There's a job for you. Do you want to be home by 5? There's a job for you. Do you want to work 4/10s instead of 3/12s? There's a job for you. Just understanding what it is that you want out of work before you just get a job because it's this unit that you want to work on or something like that. I would say number 2 is just stand 10 toes down on your boundaries and what it is that you want. Don't let jobs gaslight you into thinking that a completely hectic and narcissistic situation is normal. It's not normal. It's not okay.
Or unsafe.
And it may be normal to those nurses that are there that have dealt with it for years. It doesn't have to be normal for you. And it is okay for you to set boundaries and set standards and remove yourself and or be honest with your managers. I'm very honest. If you ask me, I'm going to tell you. Don't ask me because I'm a nice shift nurse. I'm queen, mind my business. But if you ask me, I'm going to tell you. And 3, I would say for those nurses out there, Lord, If you ever been cheated on during night shift,
Oh, we gonna talk about this now?
girl, if you ever been cheated on while you work in night shift, let me tell you, being in a bad relationship as a nurse, I don't know, because I've been a nurse since I was 22 years old, so I can't speak for other careers. But baby, it's a whole nother
It's so
level
draining.
because you're at work for 13 hours. It's 312s, but you're there for 13 hours respectfully. So you're at work for 13 hours arguing with a motherfucker in place. In front of the pantry.
And your patients are struggling.
Or your mind is not there.
It's not there, you're not
shit,
present.
But your mind is not there, and you're Or there's the other part of it as you are counting down to go home because you're frustrated, because you're scared, because you're anxious. Thank God for deliverance, because I haven't been through this since I was a very young nurse. But
Same.
when I dealt with this as a younger nurse, oh my God.
It was
the
draining.
Anxiety you feel, because you got to realize we are completely, I don't know about you, but the hospital is a lockdown for me. Yes, we can leave at any point if you're not on psych, but the point is you don't leave.
I could leave on site.
You don't leave that building.
No,
that
you don't.
building is that building. You don't see sunlight again. If you work day shift, you come in when it's dark, you leave when it's dark.
You
it's
locked
just a
in.
very long time to be oppressed by your situation.
And somebody, if you
Yeah.
deal with a cheater, he know you there.
And he know you
or
there.
she know you
easy
there.
to cheat on. You easy
Okay.
to cheat on. You
So-
can't leave. So I would just say that was, from my experience as a younger nurse, that was one of the hardest things, was being at work worried about a nigga. And I just feel like that's something that, like, you need to have respect, boundaries, and just a level at which that you know is too much for you when it comes to relationships. And everybody needs to respect that, because you are, at the end of the day, dealing with people's lives. Your focus needs to be their life and you taking care of yourself so you can take care of them. So, of course, any relationship go through ups and downs. Every relationship argues. But when it comes to abuse, when it comes to not being right before shifts, because this nigga just keep on, it's just too much. There has to be a level that you know that I gotta go, because this is not safe for me, my household, my child, my job, whatever. You want to do another one? Come on.
Yeah. I really don't like seeing you upset.
I'm not upset. I'm just passionate.
Okay. I think this is a great segue, real quick,
Yeah.
because we want to spend a little bit of time. So basically, stand 10 toes down on your
Yeah,
boundaries.
yeah.
Have a healthy household,
Yeah.
right? You ain't gotta be abused and used for money.
Sure
all right.
don't.
Get a fucking side hustle.
Yup.
Plan for your kids.
Yup.
Plan for your kids.
Yeah.
Your maternity leave, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And fuck these jobs.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, the moral of the story is fuck anything that is not contributing to your overall lifestyle of peace. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whatever that looks like for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need money. So at the end of the day, like, not everybody is going to be an entrepreneur. Some people do have to be workers, and some people like to work. So I think that it's
I
just
think
more
more
so
people should get a job.
Yeah, it's just more so finding. I just don't want people. I used to know this girl that worked for an eye doctor, and her job was to go see the patients after they had eye surgery at their house and just make sure they were okay.
I knew a coroner nurse that would come in and take people's eyes out of their sockets in the middle of the night. Fucking
that's
cool. I would love her
creepy as
job.
shit,
That sounds so fucking cool.
But there's just so many parts of nursing that
It's just
are
everything
Yeah,
exists.
you gotta find it.
All right, I want to reel us back in. So yeah, find your joy
Yeah.
and love in nursing. Don't let them tell you a fucking hero, because you not, bitch.
Period.
You not a fucking hero. You a regular ass bitch, okay, from North Philly and West Philly, and you need to sleep and eat and be with them kids, okay?
Period.
I just want to share this before
Okay.
we pivot into dating. I felt so relieved when I got well, this is a great pivot. Let me
Yeah.
explain. So I had been out of nursing for 5 years.
Okay.
And then I went to home care. Nope, not for me. All right. It was the driving, the going in people's homes. They had like 7 cats, all of the different things. And also just feeling like I had to zip up myself in order to, and I had to hide my gifts.
Yeah,
is how I felt.
To be suitable for them.
To be suitable for the corporate world. Sheet is bobbing his head back there because as a creative, it feels like spiritual fucking suicide to
Yeah.
have to hide yourself
Yeah.
to go into a place of work. And you can't always, you can't always, and you can't always coexist with your workplace and your gifts. And I understand that, but I feel like I had paid my dues, etc.
I'm
So
happy for you.
I was going through my breakup with the crash out that you all knew about and working in psych at the same time. It was a lot. And I was not only working in psych, I was working in psych with no guards, with mice running around, and with violent men. So what you're saying as far as the relationship aspect goes, baby, I get it. Yeah. I had a man that I couldn't calm down or de-escalate, and I'm literally running a unit of people. And I ultimately ended up getting fired because in the morning, the CNO came by and said, "How was your night?" And I said, "Well, I had 26 patients last night. There's also rodents in here. There's a female on the unit with a male, on the units with male. She's young. She's 19. I think she belongs in adolescence. I think she's going to end up getting pregnant or violated something. It doesn't feel good. Like, we need to fix this." And the next day, when I called in to ask about my schedule,
yeah, they don't like honesty.
I was fired. I was off the schedule. And those kind of things, like, were affirming to me. And I remember coming home, like, getting ready and getting up and calling about my schedule because I wasn't on there. Because I had asked them to move me off of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. They said yes. And then when I called after making that complaint, they made me fill out a paper stating that I was over the legal limit, which I did because I wanted to protect my license, protect your license. I came home. I got up and I looked at my 2-year-old son at the time who was struggling during that time because he was with my mom and I was struggling because my mom isn't the best. My mom's the best grandma, but she doesn't provide structure. And I run a tight household. So I would come home after a set 12-hour shift during this time period being harassed and defamed and having a smear campaign about me on the internet from my ex-boyfriend who belonged in the facility I worked at. And then I come home to a child that I had to get ready for school, feed breakfast, take to the potty, and then
It never stops.
And never stopped. And so I just was like, this can't be life. And so that day that I got fired, I felt relief. I literally crawled into bed with my son at 6 p.m. We snuggled, we read a story, and I felt like I was gifted back my family. And I still feel like that because I really wanted to be a mom. And so to be away from my son like this just didn't feel right. So for the families, the relationships, the dating and nursing, this is like my little segue for that.
Yeah.
Is essentially like honor your family, really look at that. And also nurses do get a really bad rap as far as dating goes. Recently, I was online and this guy was like using my images from, yes, girl, I gotta show it to you. He was using my images from literally 2016. And I'm like cute in the bathroom with the burgundy scrubs. It's like a very viral picture. And he had pictures of me in the background with a voiceover like, nurses cheat on their spouses. They're the most likely to cheat on their spouses, da-da-da-da-da. And I just don't know these nurses that are actually cheating on their spouses. I know a lot of nurses who are getting cheated on when they're working 12-hour shifts. I never dated anybody at work like that. You get what I mean? I did have a crush and on this guy. His name was Eddie Ramos. And he's like, Eddie. Hi, Eddie. But I'm a taken woman now. But I loved Eddie. And me and him had this like relationship we like flirted.
I don't know anybody. I don't know. I feel like you have to, culture matters here. And I'm not trying to be like that, but I do think that culture matters because.
So you think it's the white people?
Damn.
The fuck?
I mean, I just think that it's like a cultural thing. Like no hospital that I've ever worked at was people like getting it in. Like now I heard stories, but it was from the younger white nurses.
I've never fucked anybody in the break room or anything. I would love to tell a story like that.
When I walk into the hospital, I immediately feel disgusting.
Me too.
There's no way that I'm getting naked doing anything in the hospital. And like I said, people watch these shows like Grey's Anatomy or something like that, and they think that shit really happens. Again, maybe it does. But in my world and in the black nurse world, because most of my friends that are nurses are black nurses, I have never experienced that. I also have white girlfriends who are nurses and they've never experienced that. Now they may have dated people from work that they had sex with outside of work.
Yeah, but I'm saying they make it seem like we be fucking the respiratory therapist in the First of all, I had an alarm going off every 32 seconds.
Yeah, I don't even be thinking about that. It's just gross. I don't want to be touched. I don't know.
And
I I just feel like, to me, cheating is like just a thing. I don't think that it's a nurses cheat more. I think just people cheat, and maybe somebody been cheated on by a nurse and they feel like that. But like, it's the opposite, because you know our schedule. We don't necessarily know like what you're doing while we're locked in the hospital.
So I told him that, hey, I don't like this. And I feel like, I was like, you sound like someone cheated on you, sir. And he blocked me and still continued to this day to use my images to say like nurses cheat. And I'm thinking like, my man uses the internet. Like, I don't need him to see this. You know what I mean? So it just...
I've never cheated on anybody, and especially not...
I have, but it was... honestly, I have, but it was when I was doing public speaking and touring. That's when I was fucking getting busy and doing shit. It was because my lifestyle was like, I'm in this city, I'm in that city. Hey, I'm in this city, I'm in that... You get what I mean? It was like that.
But I don't have that experience from my friends that are nurses.
All right, so let's go over some of the common stereotypes in nurses and relationships.
Well, let's go over what they say to us, because if another man call me big money or reference money at all with nursing, I'm crashing out. Like, leave us alone.
They think we got money.
Yes, they think that we have money, and they automatically think that we're associated with money. And honestly, they talk themselves out of certain energy, because as soon as you mention me or money in any capacity, I'm out of here because I'm annoyed now.
Yeah, and then they also call us gold diggers, which is weird because they don't have any gold to dig, so it's super weird. I will say, like, during my most fiscally abundant nurse years, like getting the bag as a travel nurse, I did have a boyfriend that I was with, and I called him Flame. Okay. Some people may remember that era of my life, and I was a financial provider in the relationship. Okay. And I see a lot of this in the non-Black community for Nurse Pookie. If you search Nurse Pookie on TikTok, you'll see it. Essentially, like, he was my caregiver. And I don't think it was an unhealthy dynamic. Yeah. Like, when I think back on it, like, I would come home after a long shift and, like, my bath would be ran and, like, he'd make dinner. My car would be parked. He'd park my car. When I had to do merch or anything, he helped me with the things that I would do. And all the things I was doing. And I think I see that as a dynamic for a lot of women. And I do think that if you are a nurse, you need a provider in your life, someone who has balanced feminine energy that will provide those things for you, like a comfortable environment, a safe space, like gentle cleaning, like helping you around the house and like really doing some things. Do you feel me? Because you really like working them 312s, like you be like, oh my God.
But I think that can come in any form though. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that could be like, I sent you a housekeeper. I did this.
But yeah, it can come from a very masculine man who does also pay them bills. That's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I ran your bath before I ran out. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like it can come.
Well, let me be clear. Let me be clear though. Like, the man that I was with was masculine. Like, he was 6'4", big ass hands, could build shit. Like, it was very attractive to me at the time. And I think the big money comes in from men who are intimidated by us. And he was like, look, baby, I'm fucking broke. I'm an artist, but this is what I bring to the table. And it worked for me at the time. Now, at this point in my life, you guys the bills is high, and I want you to, so I just want you to show up in ways that feel good. Like, I like a providing man in the sense that, like, I'm going to get my nails done. Here's some money. You know what I mean? I got you flowers. I did this. So I do think that nurses need to enter relationships with givers, but the stereotypes that we big money, we cheat. I'm not going to lie, though. When I was a travel nurse, I spent money like I sold cocaine.
Yeah. But that's the thing, though, is like, here's the thing that I want people to understand is like, the way that I care for myself and people around me is like nursing just enhances that, but that's already what was there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, whether I was a nurse or not, my family, if you came to Christmas tomorrow, right, my aunt will pull gifts out the closet that she got just in case people came. Mm-hmm. We're just givers. You know what I'm saying? That's how we are. So like, if my friends are like that, if my family are like that, the people around me are like that, why would it stop at my partner?
Wait a second. So since it's Valentine's Day, like, what's your love language?
Oh my God, all of them, and put a cherry on top. For real,
you're such a lover girl.
I'm such a lover girl. I like all of them.
Mine are gifts. I like gifts and physical touch. I'm such a fucking man.
No, I love physical touch because if you walk past me in the kitchen and you don't smack my ass, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Like,
I was doing the dishes and my man came up and choked me. Ooh. And like he choked me and then like bit my face and I was like, oh. That's like my words of, and he is very much, and you too, like the way I love, like I'm a terrible gift getter. Mm-hmm. Like when I have money, I'm just like, here you go, baby. It's coming. Yeah. You'll see. It's coming.
But I like gifts. I like
You get good
thoughtfulness.
gifts.
Thank you. I love getting good gifts for people.
I love my Bible cards.
Aw,
I love
so
them.
sweet.
Yeah, I love all my gifts from you. Like my
you.
Skims bodysuit, I can name everything. My Skims bodysuit, I wear all the time. I've literally worn that. It's like,
I'm glad
please,
it fits you.
it's like, please don't pick me up again, please. I love that. I like my white shirt you got me. I also like my Bible cards. I love my planner. Like I literally love everything. And my soul necklace, my chains.
And I have more for you. That's the funny part is that
Okay,
there's more
and
coming.
mine is words of affirmation.
I love words of affirmation.
That's how I love. That's how I show up, and it's quality time. Like I like people to come over. Oh, I think it might be. I don't know what this is, but when people come over, I really like to like. Every time
serve them.
I like to serve people. I do.
You do a great job of that. You make sure that everybody has everything they need and they feel like they're having a bougie experience.
I love that. That's like my love language.
I really appreciate all of them, and I say that because there's nothing that I could not do without. I could not do without gifts. I could not do I'm very much a words of affirmation girly. Like I need to feel that security of your words matching your actions. If you do all actions, that's great too, but if there's no words of like lovey-doveyness, to me it takes away the romance sometimes. You know what I mean? I like that energy.
Before we shift into our medical minute,
okay,
I want to know how nursing has affected your love and relationships.
Jesus. I honestly think that nursing is not the best for dating. I know that's like...
No, it's horrible.
Like a lot, but I just think that nursing comes with a lot of stereotypes and a lot of like... I've also met a lot of guys with mommy issues whose moms were nurses. You know what I mean? I think that there's a lot that comes with dating a nurse, and I think that people date them to get certain type of nurturing and caretaking from them, but don't know how to take care of them. And I also think that a lot of nurses, in my opinion, are also magnets for men that are narcissistic.
I think that we are fixers.
Yeah, that's a magnet though. Yeah. They want someone that thinks that like, oh, they think that they have a one up on us. They want to be smarter than us, but they're intimidated by us. So we feed their ego and they take it away.
I don't even think it's just narcissism though. I think it's like mommy issues, brokenness. Like I think that nurses are martyrs and heroes. So drop the fucking hero complex. That's my advice for nurses out there is to drop like if next time you say healthcare heroes, say fuck you. I'm a human. You know, because I think that trickles over in our love, our relationships, for sure. And you know that nurse that's being called like, oh yes, I could pick up the extra shift. Of course, I feel bad for leaving my unit, but no, you're leaving your child, you're leaving your art, you're leaving your different things that you love. You know. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely. What advice would you give to anybody dating a nurse?
I would say to talk to them and actually hear how they would like you to show up, instead of assuming how they would like you to show up. You think that someone has money, so you think that, oh, she doesn't need me to pay for her hair or her nails. Mm-hmm. Yes, I do. You know what I mean?
It's an acts of service.
Yeah, like she likes this. This is acts of service, something that she may need. You think that she's a nurturer, so she doesn't like to be nurtured. No, I'm sick, bring me soup and rub me. Yes, you know? Same. So just being mindful of like what she may need and being vocal about it and not just assuming that just because she's a nurse, she doesn't need that.
Love that.
What would you say?
I would drop all the stereotypes of what a nurse is and get to know the person. Okay. Because the media really paints a nurse, right? Mm-hmm. So last night I was watching this show and I was just like, ugh. Here goes the hard-working single mom nurse that rubs herself to the bone, that's in the relationship with the addicted, you know what I mean? A single mom who works too hard, who loves her kids and never stops.
Single mom that works too
That's
hard,
literally Reba, and she was a nurse.
Never stops.
No, we're always seeing them exhausted. So drop those stereotypes and really understand that maybe this nurse loves yoga, she loves this, she loves that. And also the sexy nurse oh, you're a nurse? Can you take care of me?
Nicka. Square up! Say
it again. All right, so those are the main things I would say is just drop the stereotypes, of course, and learn the person. And don't sexualize our profession because it's not sexy.
At all. And that's the unsexy part of nursing. Like people think, you know, I think social media has a lot to do with it though. Yeah. Like social media has like these women online with these big old booties with these nice
No, it's been
with the Chanel bags. Social media did it.
No, it didn't, girl. It's been years and years, the 70s with the nurses with the hats and the
No, I'm not saying that part. I'm talking about the big money part.
Oh, the like big money, but I'm talking about the sexualized part.
The sexual hasn't been there.
It's been there. But
that big money, oh, she got this, she got that. I think that's a lot to do with like...
And that's cultural.
Social media.
It's cultural.
Yeah.
Our culture. So how have you brought a little bit more sexy into nursing and wellness into nursing? And then we'll shift into our medical minute and I'll share too.
How do I bring a little sexy into nursing?
Or like well-being overall. Like,
Overall well-being?
yeah.
I think that I am really good at making nursing into a mental challenge for me that I overcome by the end of the shift. Do you know what I mean? Like I come into work and I see my tasks and I literally work myself through it like it's like a mental health project sometimes and just get through it. And I think that one thing that I've done in terms of well-being is be grateful for the things that I think are annoying. Like sometimes we walk into things and we're like, oh my God, I got another shift. People hate their job. And I walk into it like, you know what? Thank you, God, that I got this job. Thank you, God, that I can serve people for 12 hours. Thank you, God, that I'm getting paid whatever I'm getting paid per shift. It's people that work this hard for $10 an hour, $15 an hour. Thank you, God, that when I leave here, I know that I can pay my mortgage. You know, so I think I just go into it with a lot of gratefulness more than I did before. Before I was like, oh my God, here we go. But now I think that's shifted my mindset and made it more of a well-being experience for myself.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I love gratitude.
Yeah.
Gratitude is very
It can
sexy.
change your whole mindset on things. Because
so,
you even when I think about my son and he's mommy, especially when he was a toddler, I had to think to myself, like I have friends who have autistic kids that can't talk.
Speak. My son
and I'm
never
like,
shuts up.
I would be devastated if my son couldn't call me mommy. So it's like I shifted my thought process. And on the fourth mommy, I do respond like, what? But, you know, just being more mindful about what you perceive as annoying is someone else's blessing.
Yep. It's provision is all about perception.
Right.
Like instead of asking
Perceiving.
for provision, ask for the ability to perceive this different.
Okay.
That's like key.
That's dope. I like
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came up with that. So for me, it's listening to my body.
Okay.
There are things that, and I love this activity, and I want everybody at home to do it because you know I'm the woo-woo girly,
Yeah.
right? So I think about how my body responds physically because I'm working in a field that cares for people.
Right.
Does my body feel tight and excited?
Okay.
I mean, tight and like irritated. Do I feel like I'm clenching up or do I feel open and expansive?
Okay.
Because the open and expansiveness means that my lungs are oxygenated, my heart is getting that, like, you know, I'm pumping my fluids, I'm feeling good. Do I have a headache?
Yeah.
Am I dehydrated? Do I have an attitude? Like all of the different things. And I got to a point with bedside where I would literally have headaches with aura when I was walking into the building. And that was me dishonoring my body, which is essentially disobedience.
Yeah.
So I look at it like, how does this make me feel in my body? Not just like my feelings about the day, because that could be a lack of discipline, right? It's just, does this make me feel well? Is this going to add to my family? And I move from there.
Yeah.
You know, and I have pivoted, and now I'm in the aesthetics industry, and I've even pivoted in the aesthetics industry. I plan to open my own practice really soon, and I'm really excited about it. And my focus is doing things from the whole body, like healing from the inside out and really working on your overall well-being before we inject a needle into your face.
Right,
you know?
let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about what's actually going on. And I think more of that needs to be done. So that is my sexy side of nursing, is looking at the whole person, my whole self, and how I feel with what I'm doing and how it affects my ecosystem, being my family.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I got one last question for you. Can you give me one of the grossest things about nursing? Whether it's a task that you've done, a procedure that you've done, a tool that you use, anything that you could think of?
Ooh, I think
ASMR, give it to us straight.
I think we may need to change gears for this.
Okay.
And I might need to put on
Oh,
something.
you want to put on our scrubs? Okay.
I need to put on something
Let's
a little
get
bit.
into-
Because it's going to get real messy.
Okay, let's get into our medical minute.
All right.
1, 2, 3.
EAGLES Eagles!
Do it again. You left me hanging.
Go. EAGLES Eagles!
We made it to the bowl.
We made it to the bowl. We made it
Period.
to the bowl.
Go Birds.
Go Birds. We in Philly. We in Manayunk. Okay? So it's only right.
It's only right. Okay, so this is our medical minute, all right? We have 7 minutes of our medical minute, and we're going to start off by talking about what was one of your most grossest experiences as a nurse, or like your grossest tool, equipment, procedure.
Okay, so I'm going to give you two.
Okay.
So I worked liver transplant ICU.
Okay.
For a really long time at UCLA. Yes, credentialed up baddie. And one of the things that you used to have to give to liver transplant patient to get their enzymes down was lactulose.
Lactulose.
And did you give it by mouth? No.
Enema, baby.
Did you give it by nose? No, you gave it up the booty hole, right? So it's like thick and super sweet and like syrupy. So like you have to literally get it to go in. And let's just say one time it squirted back at me.
Oh no!
From head to toe. And I mean, the benefit was I always wanted to try the like blue hospital scrubs
that come out the vending machine.
That come out the vending machine. So I got to try those. And then after that, you know, I put in, they would call it the Monique special. If anybody had loose stool at like a, what was it? Because you know they categorize the stool and like pictures. Okay. This is the number 1, number 2. Have you ever seen the poop chart?
Yes.
So the poop chart like light brown C. diff vibes.
That's what we was working with.
That's what we were working with. So I had to insert a rectal tube. And if many of you don't know, a rectal tube is a tube that is long, very long, about 20 feet long, in fact. And it is plastic. And then you take your little index finger here with a glove, of course, and you insert it into the rectum, just like that. Poor things. I always wore nails my entire career.
Horrible.
Argue with somebody else. I know. So I did that.
And then you inflate a balloon and that basically helps it like stay up in their butthole so that they have liquid diarrhea. They don't get skin breakdown and stuff from it.
Yeah, I mean, I loved rectal tubes in the sense that I didn't have to clean shit Q1 hour and I just dumped a bag of shit. I would have to drop down on my knees and get my eagle on.
Ooh, eagles.
and then I would have to dump that.
Okay.
But by far the grossest thing, I've have so many. I'm sorry, I'm overdoing it. But the last one would be leech therapy.
Oh, I've done leech therapy before.
Yeah, so leech therapy is essentially when you use leeches to stimulate blood flow. And I love it.
It's kind of cool.
I love it because it's a natural way to do it.
Yeah.
Like heparin, Coumadin, Lovenox, all blood thinners. They have a lot of side effects. And I like leeches because they literally like go to the site that needs to be healed and like create blood flow maybe, and then that's it. But they come up from pharmacy
in a jar.
In a jar of leeches. Sheed, put a picture in of the leeches swimming around. I hope he does. All right. This is like what they look like. All right. So they're a medication. They show up. And then essentially I would have like, say it's a finger. And I've done this hundreds of times in my career. And I would poke, like take pinpoint and take a needle, like an 18 gauge and poke to create some type of blood supply for the leech to attach to. And the leeches would just eat to essentially, you know, create blood flow production. And then after they're done eating, they get like so fat. And I remember I went to like lunch or something. I like stepped away from the bedside. Another patient's call light rang. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go check. And then I came back and I couldn't find the leech, bitch. I couldn't find the fucking leech. And I was like, oh my God, where's the leech? And then I went to the window and there was a trail of blood and the leech was trying to escape.
Oh my God.
The leech was trying to say, free the leeches. So free the leeches. So needless to say, after they do their work, do you know what you do? You kill them.
Yeah, you kill them with peroxide or something.
No, alcohol. You drop them in alcohol and that's it. So save the leeches. Save the leeches.
They do their job though. Thank you, leeches, for what you do.
Strong
member of the healthcare community.
Top 3.
Okay, so for mine, I used to work on a liver and lung transplant unit as well. Okay, so I used to work with liver patients a lot. And there's this thing called hepatic encephalopathy, which basically means that people that have a liver failure, they struggle with multiple things, but one of them is they have increased ammonia in their brain. So that makes them...
A what?
Ammonia.
Ammonia?
Ammonia.
Ammon?
Ammon.
Are you fucking kidding me? Ammonia. Say it again.
So hepatic encephalopathy is basically when a patient has an increased amount of ammonia in their brain. And unfortunately, that makes them really confused and like loopy. The hard part for nursing, though, is that they come in and out of it. Like 1 minute, they could be acting very normal, like themselves, and AAO times 4. And the next minute, they are looking through you. And I kind of used to call it the liver stare because they're like, looking at you and they're looking at you, but they looking real beyond you. You're not really here and they not here with you for real. So I had this patient who was like 6'5", stocky guy. And he's like, oh, I got to pee. I'm like, all right, we'll go pee. Here's the urinal. He's like, no, I got to stand up. I'm like, oh my God, all right. So I help him stand up and he's standing, everything cool. He making eye contact, everything cool. Next thing you know, he gave me the liver stare and clearly wasn't with me, right? So now he's 6'4", I'm 5'10". I can handle it a little bit, right? So he's up, he's like standing next to the wall. So I see him leaning. I said, oh my God. So I took my forearm and pinned it up against his chest, right? But then he about to drop the urinal. So I have my arm against his chest. I have this hand with the urinal, holding the urinal. Next thing you know, of course, he loses it. He almost falls and he literally pees a stream of hot orange amber liver urine up my arm to my shoulder. And I'm just sitting there like, I just like let out whatever I could. And I also had to deal with leech therapy before. I had a patient in the ER who actually was from like, I don't know, East Bumba somewhere. And she worked as on tractor trailers. She fell off the trailer and the trailer ripped off her ear. So she came in for leech therapy. And the leeches, believe it or not, are so small. They come up really tiny, but then they put the leech on, once we put it on their ear, her ear, they get big and beefy. The problem is it's an ear. So she's laying like this, and then her husband calls, right? And the leech is there, and I don't want to touch it. I'm cool. So then the leech is like flapping on her ear. Once it got its fill and it wanted to leave. So, nursing, it could be a little gross.
What is your absolute ick as nursing? So for like me, like poop, pee, fine with it. Like totally fine. Blood,
mucus,
cerebral spinal fluid, like all of it. Mucus is it. So
mucus is my ick. I can't do it.
I went to a ear, nose, and throat unit. Yeah. I was floated there 5 nights in a
disgusting.
row. And I literally was like, Amanda Blectomy, like the whole fucking jaw removed, dog. Frankenstein level shit. Like,
ENT floors are like literally horror movies sometimes. Shout out to ENT nurses and shout out to patients that need them. But it's a lot.
A wet trach.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Wet trach. It sounds
like a lot of mucus. I'm good.
Yeah, mucus.
Yeah, mucus.
All
that friend. I'm good. And throw up actually is probably quite disgusting too. Surprisingly, as nurses, we don't deal with throw up as much as you think that we do. Throw up is honestly for amateurs because like we respectfully, our patients are beyond throw up.
They are.
They're beyond nauseous.
Okay,
so
what is your body
often.
fluid that's gross but you actually like?
Blood.
I like nasogastric. Like when you set up a NG tube and then you put it to suction.
And that mucus though, you don't consider that mucus?
That's bile contents from your stomach.
You're talking about after you put it in the suction stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So like, a lot of patients who are like abdominally distended.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of patients who are abdominally distended, I would put in an NG tube, right? And then for one, I love the fucking sound of the air bolus.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's in place, it's like, fuck yeah, we are the champions. Like that feels so good. It's like such a badass.
I think it's like the action of it more than the fluid then.
It is.
Like
and
you
then,
got it.
No. And then like sometimes they would ask you to hook it up to suction or like, help with that. And when you see the bright green fluid.
Oh, okay. Okay,
yeah,
so bile is your thing. Okay,
I love bile.
Right. Okay, so a part of our medical minute, we really wanted to also encourage nurses and also understand like some of the conditions and things that nurses are more at risk for just being nurses. So number one, we talked about workplace violence, right? Like nurses can get really hurt. There's plenty of cases of violence throughout the country from different hospitals, no matter what floor you work on. Like I said, I've been harmed several times at work. You deal with it, but that's one risk. Second is a lot of skeletal disorders and muscle disorders because of the bending, the lifting, the shifting.
My back still ain't right.
Girl, ain't never gonna be. And unfortunately, we have a bunch of injuries most of the time we don't report them because we look at it as like, I'm gonna be all right whole time. You was never all right.
You think that's why I got a bad hip?
Probably, for real. Yeah, and then we be having kids and shit. So
yeah, my son was 8 pounds. So
girl, So that's that. And then we also want to talk about some of the illnesses that we're more at risk for just by nature of the stress. When it comes to cardiovascular disease, GI, we don't eat right. And then you're eating at bad times because you're eating not the normal breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You're eating at 3 o'clock in the morning. A full course meal, might I add. Snacks, you're grabbing stuff real quick. You're never really sitting down and having like a full dinner. Stress is going to increase all of those things. And I want people to also know that you're more at risk for cancers,
Diabetes,
diabetes,
hypertension.
any autoimmune disease, for real. I know so many nurses that retired and then ended up with stage 4 cancer very shortly after. And it's so sad. You work your whole life, then you retire just to deal with illness.
I always want to bring things from the mental health
Yeah.
perspective, and PTSD, post-traumatic
sure.
stress syndrome, is something that a lot of nurses are currently like just feeling the wane of COVID with. Like that was a traumatic time, and it's a real thing. Like your mental health really matters as a nurse. Alarm fatigue as well can be really triggering and traumatizing. Because you're constantly hearing ding, ding, ding,
Constantly.
ding. And let us know in the comments if you go home and still hear the
All the
alarm.
time in the shower. Ding, ding, ding.
So mine has been cleared out over time, and I'll get into how, like, over when we start talking about recommendations.
Yeah.
But it's a real thing,
Yeah.
like all those things. And as far as diet goes, your coworkers are going to always want to order
out.
Uber Eats. You know what I mean? So those are some of the core things that we deal with as nurses. Can you think of anything else?
I just wanted to take a moment to just acknowledge the PTSD part, because we look at a lot of what we do as normal, and it's really not.
It's not.
Watching someone die alone during COVID that's not how it normally is supposed to be. You know, watching somebody die, period, is a lot, but COVID was like next level from some of the things that we went through and some of the conditions that we knew that if we didn't do our job, someone was going to die in a worse situation. So it was like, even though we knew that some of the conditions were unsafe, we feel like we just had to do it. So that's that. And also just mentioning that studies have shown that if you work night shift for more than 15 years, it can shave off at least 10 years of your life, because night shift is so grueling on the body. You have a circadian rhythm for a reason. You know what I mean? And you cannot just uproot that because you feel like it. You know what I mean? Like your body still struggles, and then you flip back and forth as soon as you're on a day off.
Heavy on the we normalize things that aren't normal, such as like leaving our kids in bed with a provider to go care for other people. That is something that's like not normal at all. Like also coding a patient for 15, 20 minutes and then being like, what you want to eat for lunch? I think I'm going to have a bagel. You know what I mean? Have you ever been in the OR?
Yeah.
Shit is nuts. Like they be cutting somebody open and listening to Eminem.
Yep. Like that's why they say like the mental health part of it is the biggest component to some of the illnesses that nurses experience. So recommendations, give me some recommendations.
You know I love a wellness. So one of the core things is, of course, therapy. Therapy. And if you can, take actual breaks from the field. If you can actually take breaks. One of the healthiest states I've ever worked in, because I've worked in multiple different cities and states, was California. California was definitely the healthiest place ever. I also lived in a blue zone. Right? And a blue zone is essentially a place in the world. There's different places in the world that people live longer than they do anywhere in the world. And Costa Rica was one of them.
Okay.
And some of the key components of living a long life and healthy life is having hobbies and having joy. And that was one of the things that I saw in California with nurses. It's like, this guy named Dan that was an RN also played in a band on Saturday.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And he surfed, and this other nurse like went to art shows and things like that. And I feel like often on the East Coast it's such a hustle bustle culture that you work, you take care of your kids, you go home and you die. Literally.
Right. No one's passionate about anything.
No one's passionate about everything. So number one is like definitely joy and passions and living a quality life outside of work. You know? Number two is going to be like your diet, like your actual diet. I worked night shift for 7 years, and I never forgot my lunch. And I'm not saying that to think that I'm better than everyone shaking my Caesar salad. You know, it was genuinely because I would look forward to eating my lunch and listening to the verbal cues or physical cues in your body because you have that nurse intuition. You
Right.
know when patient number 4 is about to go down
Right.
in that room, or room 4 is about to go downhill.
Yeah.
So you know that for yourself
Yeah.
too. So not ignoring those things for
Gotcha.
yourself, and knowing when to get out, knowing when to leave your job, knowing when to take a break and pivot are key things. Sound healings or white noise is something really great to listen to help cancel out the noise exhaustion and alarm fatigue that you hear. Please do research on it, or just
Yeah.
try it. Go on YouTube and listen to Soft, Gentle Rain.
Yeah.
It really, really will help you a lot, as well as singing bowls, crystal singing bowls, Tibetan singing bowls, etc. Balanced diet. And remember, like, you are the most important person on your unit.
For sure.
You are the most important person in your unit. If you're not fed, if you're not hydrated, if you're crashing out, if you're unwell, if you had a bad situation happen at work, before work, that carries into your workplace. So
Right.
these are all key things. And take your fucking PTO. Do you hear me? Take your PTO. Like, you need it. Take a mental
Yeah.
health day, all of the things.
some time to
and
yourself.
you need to take that time to
Yeah.
yourself. Everybody's not always going to understand what you need, but you may need to create a care plan for yourself.
Yeah. For me, I would definitely say to take time to do the little things that can help your day. Like, for instance, I insist on a break, and when I go on break, I watch Netflix or watch something that's completely non-job related. I don't do anything according to my job. I need to check out. I need to zone out. And honestly, I don't even really like talking to people on my break. I need a moment with myself and something very distracting to take my mind off of everything so I can just like reset. Now the rest of my shift, I'm ready to go because I done got fed. I did something that I wanted to do, and it just feels better. So that's one thing that I do.
I would really like to note that clocking out and then still working is illegal.
Yeah. If you work
Period.
a job that you do that, no. So just keeping in mind that you need those resets. You need that
And
time
it's
for your
literally,
head to.
you know, you only have 30
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah, and you're not getting paid for your break. Other people, like, listen, my ex used to work in corporate. He used to get a full hour break plus a 15 for an 8-hour shift.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We work 12 and get 30 minutes,
And
if
we're
that.
not paid.
So I just want, and we're not paid for it. So just keep in mind that, like, you want to make sure that you really, like, take those 30 minutes, whatever amount of time that you have to really zone out of whatever's going on and do what makes you happy. For me, it's Netflix. For you, it might be talking to your partner or your child, whatever. 2 is, I think, like Mo said, packing your lunch, making sure that you're keeping yourself ready for your shift, whether that's getting coffee in the morning, tea. I like herbal teas. I love them. They really speak to my soul. Ginger, turmeric, love it. Green tea. I also do different types of matcha teas that I love. And lastly, I would just say keeping your relationships healthy outside of work. Because I think that that's another thing, is like going into work already stressed out because of situations you have before work is also just as bad. You know what I mean?
a heavy weight.
It's a heavy weight, and it just makes your shift even longer and more grueling. You got an attitude, you're pissed off, and you're ready to go before you even walk in the door. I try to walk in with gratitude and try to walk in feeling like, okay, I can change someone's life today by just being more peaceful with them. How can I do that when my mind is still at an argument that I had with my partner an hour ago, or something that's going on at home? So I think just keeping your relationships outside of work healthy and keeping your mind healthy. If that's going to the gym after work, that's taking a walk after work. Maybe for you, it's not good for you to just go right home and go to sleep. Maybe you need to take a walk or eat something or do something that you love.
Yeah, it's important that this isn't an individualized care plan for you where you assess your need, not looking at what this girl does on TikTok
Right,
or
for
Instagram.
sure.
I hate the fucking spend a day with me videos and like this is what I do, this is my routine, because it creates unrealistic expectations for people in a sense that we're all supposed to do it this way. When we do a care plan for a patient, we do it individualized as
each
well
person.
as well as when we do it for ourselves.
I also just want to give a huge shout out to the nurses, because Mo and I are very much so supported by our nurse followers out there and our nurse friends out there. And we just want to say from the bottom of our heart, thank you for supporting us. Thank you for always showing us love. Thank you for always finding us relatable in some type of way. Thank you for really like trying your best to understand us and also commenting and loving us and liking us. And we really appreciate all the feedback. We encourage you to give us more feedback. Give us your comments on YouTube. Give us your comments on our Instagram. You can email us at makeitenufpodcast@gmail.com. Enough is spelled ENUF. And continue to send us any merch that you have, any space that you have that you want us to come check out. We would love to. Today, we're wearing a PARN by our girl Ashanae. We're going to put the link in the bio. Go support her. She has all types of nursing t-shirts and hoodies, and we just love that for us. So check out Ashanae.
I love my bookies, my OG nurse bookies, tap in, my new nurse bookies, tap in. And we can't wait to see y'all because we're going to continue to make it enough.
Yes.